Hi there. It is Tuesday, and that can only mean that we are back for another NRL preview, previewing round 12 this time. Plenty of changes to get through, some late team news as well, with disciplinary news just coming in. As always, my ever reliable colleague Luke Jobson is here to help me take you through the teams, give our tips, give our predictions, and maybe make a few cheeky dollars while we're in the mood for it. So, how are you going, mate?
Yeah, good mate. It was a successful weekend on the punt. If you took a couple of our tips, we had plenty of value bets get up with Lukey Thompson and Josh Mansour on my side, getting up at some very cheeky odds. But yeah, no, look, plenty of team news, plenty of NRL news, just in general over the last 24 hours. It's been a very hectic day in the world of rugby league, mate. How's it over there in Middle Earth?
Yeah, we're still ticking over. COVID's still firmly got its hold on things, but we're making a comeback. Fans have made their comeback into stadiums. So, but yeah, we'll leave less of the Rona talk there, and we'll jump straight into our first game: Broncos versus the Storm. Broncos obviously come up with that shock win last week over the Roosters. That was a big result for them. Few changes, most notably 6 and 7. Albert Kelly going into the 7 jersey. Milford coming back in the 6 shirt as well. And Rabati coming onto the bench with Kennedy moving into the 8 shirt. I mean, what's your thoughts on this one? I mean, the Storm are pretty much unchanged. Hughes is named at 7 as he was last week, but obviously didn't run out. I think he's expected to play this week. Booth comes into the 14 shirt, and then you've got a new ad in Loyero. I've probably butchered his name there, so apologies. Please don't cancel me for that. But the Storm, it's going to be hard to look past them, despite the fact that the Broncos got such a good result last week.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, Nico Hines and Brandon Smith were outstanding for the Storm last week. Cooper Johns and Chris Lewis, they did their job. Didn't do anything extravagant. Chris Lewis, I don't think, as far as I'm aware, had ever played 5'8" prior to last week. So, hat off to him, because he's knocked out a perennial half in Cooper Johns, just with how well he played. It was a fast start by the Raiders, but in typical Storm fashion, they came back. They did what they did. The Broncos, well, I don't know how many multis they ruined last week, but they definitely ruined mine. What can you say? What can you say? It's a Broncos side that looked gelled, it looked good. It didn't help that the Roosters were playing like they had, themselves in their own hands, just kind of playing with each other and trying to figure out what was going on. But yeah, the Broncos came to the SCG and comprehensively beat a very poor Roosters side. What else can you say about it? I'm still in a little bit of shock, actually. Yeah, between them and the Dogs giving the Titans a big run for their money, we nearly saw some very big upsets last week.
Yeah, it just goes to show as well what happens when you've got, a half that comes in with a lot to prove. Albert Kelly obviously being away over on my side of the world, playing for Hull FC in the Super League, comes back, plays reserve grade a little bit, obviously makes a bit of an impression, gets called up with Milford being out of form and, injuries to the Broncos as well. And now all of a sudden finds himself as the dominant playmaker in the 7 shirt. And you got to say, he earned it last week. Everything that the Broncos did right had Albert Kelly's signature all over it, whether it was those, wicked kicks that he was putting up, or just the way that he steered the forwards around the middle of the park and really picked the Roosters apart, through those middles. It was an impressive performance. You got to say that Kelly was the standout in there. So it's great to see that they're honouring him and giving him that second shot. And, it's got to be said, with Milford playing the way that he's playing as well, he's not really the player that you look to steer the team around the park. You get him taking his chances, get him going at the line. He's got a good bit of footwork on him. Kelly's maybe not as quick going at the line. Maybe he's not as agile as Milford is. So Milford's still a threat. Take nothing away from him. It's why he's on the money that he's on. But, Kelly was playing for a contract. He had a point to prove. And, last week he proved that point.
Yeah, very much so. Tyson Gamble will probably come back in round 13 once he has served his week-long suspension. But, we'll see. In terms of a tip, hard to go past the Storm on this one. It's a sensible pick. It's an easy pick. They are still one of the premier sides in the competition. And it's a Broncos side that won comprehensively against the Roosters. That, again, like we said last week, a second-string Roosters side is still a very strong side. A second-string Storm side is almost just as bad, if not worse, especially when you have the likes of Hughes coming back. You have a starting hooker at 14 out of 16 teams in Brandon Smith that is essentially your second-choice dummy half. Nicho Hynes, a superb running fullback who essentially is playing for a contract, no matter where the heck he'll be next year. So, hard not to go past the Storm. I'm going to go them 13 plus. Anytime try scorer, take your pick. Nicho Hynes currently is $2 on Sportsbet. I think it's really hard not to go past that. The Storm have struggled in recent weeks with stopping fullbacks, and I feel like I've taken your tip there. I'm very sorry.
I'm going to come to the other side of the world and I'm going to slap you for that. I had such a sound logic. Do you know what? We don't even coordinate this. Me and Luke talk very limited before this happens because we're worried about taking each other's tips. And then he comes up and he's like, yeah, okay, yeah, maybe Nicho Hynes. I'm like, give man a break. Come on.
Look, I'll throw a value tip out there for you as well, because while it is a very strong Storm side, they do have their lapses every now and then. George Jennings can come in and have a defensive lapse every now and then. I think you could look at someone like a David Mead at 288 to come back off of his hat trick last week to have another one. Jermaine Azarko at 330, also a very strong chance for me.
Okay. Well, yeah, as alluded to there, I'm gonna be going Storm 13 plus. I'm gonna be going Nicho Hynes, just simply because my logic behind this one is Hynes is obviously, as you mentioned, he's in the market right now, and the team that is tipped to be going to the Broncos. Nothing says I'm here, pay me what I'm worth, like turning up and absolutely pumping the team, and you being one of the biggest names responsible for it. So, I'm going Nicho Hynes there just for that logic. So that's where we go. You're going 13 plus. Jennings, I think you said. I'm going Hynes 13 plus the Storm. Yep. We'll go straight to the next one then. This one's going to be a little less clear cut. I'm kind of excited to see where your thoughts are on this one. Cowboys versus Warriors. I mean, you can't pick a closer game this week. These two teams, 38 meetings, 19 wins apiece. Nothing says 50-50 quite like that. I mean, the last two meetings, 24-20 in favour of the Warriors, 37-26. Both of them going for an under 12 margin on those last two meetings. Warriors and Cowboys both in hit and miss form. Neither one of them stringing together back-to-back wins in their last five. But I mean, we got the Cowboys. The biggest change of notoriety is probably the absence of Jason Taumalolo. Cohen Hess comes into the 13 shirt. Tabuai Fido comes onto the center as well in the 4 jersey. I mean, as for the Warriors, big change, and it's hard to basically find reasons against it. Reece Walsh in the 1 shirt. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck goes to the wing. Murdoch Masila goes to the bench as well. He was starting out last week. So, I mean, very, very few changes to both sides, but the changes that are made, both teams have had a bit of a reshuffle.
Yeah, bits and pieces. Very, very much bits and pieces. The hammer does come back and comes up in a game that is a big one pre-Origin. Yeah, Origin teams come out on Sunday night. One expects for the Cowboys that we'll see Valentine Holmes go. Kyle Felt potentially goes as well. I doubt that we see Scott Drinkwater go, but no Munster for Origin. The news has come out that he's more than likely going to miss Origin 1. I don't really know of any other Queensland 5'8" that isn't Ben Hunt, maybe. So Drinkwater is an outside shot. You could also make an argument for Reece Robson to go into the squad with news that Harry Grant is struggling there with his hamstring injury. Yeah, tough game to pick. Really tough game to pick. But I'm going with my gut and I'm saying the Warriors. I think that the spine of Walsh, Nikorima, Harris, Tavita, and Egan is just that little bit more dynamic. And that sounds really weird to say, knowing that Wade Egan is the starting 9. But when you add into the fact that you have someone like a Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, who, yes, will play on the wing and will stay there on the wing, but like we saw last week, has that ability to come in field and play that, essentially that second fullback role with Walsh. It looked really good. Marcelo Montoya is in some of the best form of his career. You have 2 very solid centres in Ewan Aitken and Adam Pompey. And it's not discounting this Cowboys forward pack, which has gone forward in leaps and bounds, but they lose Jason Taumalolo for a couple of weeks. They lose Lachlan Burr for a week. They lose Frankie Molo for a week. Yes, Peter Holler. Yes, Corey Jensen. They are strong players. It just doesn't fill in the void that they lose with the go forth of a Taumalolo. It doesn't lose, for the majority of the time, the good defense of Lockie Burr. With that said, you can see it going either way. I am going to go Warriors 1-12. I'll probably end up going with an Adam Pompey anytime try scorer. If you want to look at some value, you could go, and it's a strong could, you could go again with the likes of a Cody Nikorima, or even if you want to throw something completely out of left field, Mitch Dunn's a bit of a try scorer. He's due. He comes up against Jack Murchie, who's coming back from injury, still getting into some match fitness. Maybe. But I'd say Warriors 1-12, Adam Pompey.
Yeah, so I'm going Warriors 1-12 as well. Similar line of thinking. Yeah, similar line of thinking, but I think the thing that swings me is the bench. I mean, if you look at, I think the bench, the Warriors have gotten beat to a man. Tavonga over Granville every day of the week. Amoa over Holler. Afoa over Jensen, and definitely Murdoch Masilla over Lukey. I mean, that right there, when the Warriors have got those players that they can inject in and around those 25 minutes, those 55-minute marks, it's going to be so hard to stop them, especially when you've not got someone like Taumalolo in the side, who is a big part of why the Cowboys are as successful as they are when they are. I mean, the Cowboys without Taumalolo are Manly without Trbojevic. It's just the win margins are almost similar. The Cowboys don't perform well. I mean, we've said it time and time again. If a player doesn't perform, then a team doesn't perform. Unfortunately, when the Cowboys don't have Taumalolo, they don't perform. And I'm yet to see them change my mind on that. And I mean, I'm going to go Tabuai Fido on the anytime try scorer. I just think that chances are he gets on the outside. I mean, if you look at the numbers, he's going to be lining up against Montoya and Pompey. Again, Montoya is a very good attacking wing, but can have a little bit of a defensive lap. And I think Tabuai Fido, you get him out on the outside, it's just going to be speed. It's going to be speed for days, and you're not going to stop him. I mean, I like you thinking of Pompey because, I mean, he lines up against Tabuai Fido. Tabuai Fido is not a big man, and chances are he just goes straight over the top of him. But I'm going to flip it. I'm going to go Tabuai Fido on the anytime try scorer. I'm going to go Warriors 1-12. Again, just the previous meetings, this game's always pretty close. Very hard to call either way, but just the absence of Taumalolo swings it for me, and the bench as well, the bench depth that the Warriors have got. I mean, the Cowboys are notorious for turning up and turning it on, but I mean, just when I look at the Warriors, I can't go past them for this one.
Yeah, very much agree with you there.
Yep. Okay. Another slightly tricky one to call next then. Tigers versus Dragons. I'm telling you straight off the bat, I am going Tigers 13+ on this one. And this is a little bit of a strange one. I honestly thought I was tripping when I did this. It was very early when I put these graphics together, going across the bottom of the team list. I thought that I'd dropped a clanger and put Amon in both sides because he was wearing 14. It turns out that both players are Amon and will be wearing the 14 shirt on both sides. So the Dragons have got the number 14 Amon, and the Tigers have got the number 14 Amon as well. So yeah, just a little bit of a fun one for you there. But Tigers 13 plus for me. I just think that the Dragons looked really clunky last week, and I think that Beale Pereira combination on the edge is going to leak points. Jared Beale's been out of the game for a little while. Jordan Pereira loves to come inside and look for a shot. All it's going to take is Norfoluma or Dewey getting over to the side. So I'm going to go Dewey straight away on the anytime market there, alongside Tigers 13 plus. And I've stolen your tip. Have that. Yeah, hold that. Do you know what?
You're an asshole.
Yeah, never forget.
I hate you so much right now. The viewers are probably going to run away because I'm going to agree with you on this one. Tigers 13 plus. The Dragons had no attacking prowess last week. No Matt Duffy, no attack, no go forth, no lightning out the back. Yes, Cody Ramsey is a very good player, but he's not a fullback. He is a very good winger. He can't be there and give the same production that Matt Duffy does. And Duffy is single-handedly why the Dragons have been going as well as they have been for the majority of this year. Jack Bird, I mean, he's probably the best bet to throw in. But again, looking at the bench, looking at the subs, I don't really know what you do. Maybe you'd throw a Moan in at centre, push Pereira out, Ramsey to the wing. You could bring Williami into the centre, Ramsey to wing. But for me, the Tigers, yeah, they've got too much strike power. You could multi probably any of the back seven, Brooks included, for this one. Arguably, yes, Adam Dewey, anytime try scorer. Billy Bones into the 11, I like that. If the Dragons are going to score, it's going to be going against the pretty soft defensive Leilua, Brooks, Leilua. So you could see someone like a Billy Bones or a Tarek Sims crashing over from short. If you wanted to go really out there, I'm going to go and say in his game back, James Roberts scores. Tigers 13 plus and James Roberts, because I'm not gonna piggyback off your Adam Dewey, even though yes, he was my pick. Williami, not a strong defender. I believe that the threat of Dewey to allow Dane Laurie out the back, that'll be enough for Bird to have to come in at some point, especially if you have someone like a Luke Garner, who is a very strong ball runner close to the line, charging at you. As a result, it's going to leave James Roberts pretty free. He only needs a little bit of space. We know how good he can be, although he hasn't shown it the last couple of years. I see no reason as to why he doesn't go over.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the only worry that I do have with the Tigers this week is that Talau Roberts combination over on the left. It'll be their left edge, won't it? Yeah, and I mean, Talau's a winger. He's a big winger, granted. Roberts is a centre, so I think it's a little bit of a strange one for me. Roberts has played most of his late career in the centres. I think his pace has dropped off a little bit. I'd maybe preferred to see Talau on the wing, but I think maybe putting Roberts out on the wing is a bit of a protection call and just seeing how he holds up. I mean, but even if he does pull up, I mean, who do you put where? I mean, if he does, you've then got to shift Talau back to the wing and drop in maybe Blaw into the centre. And even then, that's a real concern then, because Blaw's not played a lot of centre, if any, to be honest. So, but we'll have to see how they go. But I'm definitely backing the Tigers to put on a bit of a fair on this one. I mean, the Dragons played a Sharks side last week and really scraped by, and that Sharks side were awful last week. Just didn't really offer anything at all. So, I mean, the Tigers, we've seen it. They can be a little bit rocks and diamonds, but when they are going well, the Tigers post points. It's just one of the things that they absolutely love to do. So I think that's where we're both going on that one.
So didn't really offer any.
Yeah. So we will go to the Panthers versus
Tigers. We've seen it.
Oh, geez. Bit of lag there.
Gee whiz.
Bit of lag there.
Every now and then we'll go back and have a look and make sure that the video works. And of course, on that note, it decides to blow some volume up. That'll be one for
so Panthers versus Bulldogs. God, I mean, what kind of margin do you take here? It's a real shame that most bookies don't offer a 50+ margin on this one, and I'll get a little bit of value going for you, because the Panthers will not be stopped, even with a little bit of a makeshift backline. Crichton in the 1 shirt, Momorovsky comes into the 3, Martin's in the 12 shirt, Capewell drops out. I mean, there's even with that makeshift backline, there's points all over the Panthers, and it's a shame you can't do Simbin markets either, because coming back from suspension is Jack Hetherington for the Bulldogs, and that head contact rule is not one that he will be a massive fan of, considering that he's just come back from six weeks off. Is it?
I think he got lucky with 5.
Yeah, I think it might have been. Yeah, it might have been 5. But I mean, the Bulldogs relatively unchanged from there. Their backline as it was. Wakeham and Averillo are still your first choice halves pairing. Sorry, not centres. Topane comes into the 9 shirt. No Katoa this week. Elliott is back into the second row, as is Dory. Jackson into the 13. Dietz, Stimson, Napa, and Siu Manafanai are making up the bench. I mean, the Bulldogs, they've looked slightly better in the last few weeks, but certainly not good enough to be taken on this Panthers side, and certainly not good enough to come away with points here.
Nah, surely the Bulldogs win 13+, right? Surely. Look, I will say, for someone who just, if you want to have just a flutter and put $5 on, gamble responsibly, you guys know the drill. The Bulldogs are paying $126 for 13+ on Sportsbet. You can throw a single dollar on, and that's your punting money for the weekend. If by some miracle that happens. It's not going to. Panthers, I'll have a look. We do have Sportsbet up. I'll have a look and see if I can find a 50+, maybe. But I tell you what, we'll come back to that. Even a makeshift Panthers lineup just completely should run over this dog side that has been woeful in attack and defense. I think I saw something today that Nathan Cleary scored about 140 points this year. The Dogs have scored 130 as a team. It's just crazy to think about that is possible 11 rounds in, 12 rounds in, but that's where we're at. The Dogs are hitting something like 12 points a game. Cleary's been playing lights out. Luai's been fantastic. Everyone's been fantastic. There hasn't been a single player that hasn't contributed for the Panthers. Shoop had a good game for the Dogs last week. Did what he had to do. Was very solid without being spectacular. I feel bad for Dalamateni-Zelezniak. He's been great for them in such a bad side. The same goes for Luke Thompson. Josh Jackson deserves better. But, yeah, Panthers, if you want to go Panthers, minus 49.5, they're paying $4.40 on Sportsbet. Just saying. I mean, if you're brave enough to do that, go for it. I mean, minus 39.5 is 231. That's probably more realistic. The highest that they can go in terms of a line is 56.5 or 57.5. Sorry, that pays $8.50. I really doubt that we're going to see a 60-point margin.
I'm going to clip that up. I'm going to clip that up for when it happens. I'm going to send it to you every hour of the night, waking you up.
Mate, I'll be watching the game. Don't worry, it's 3:00 on a Saturday, and I'm not working Saturday this weekend. anytime try scorer, there is absolutely no value to go anyone that isn't. I mean, Nathan Cleary at 210 is not bad. Jerome Luai at 320, not bad. Liam Martin 275, maybe. James Fisher Harris though is $5, and I am lapping that up.
Okay.
I think that they're going to barrel through the middle when you have the likes of Josh Jackson and Luke Thompson coming off. We know that they struggle in the middle part of the game, the Bulldogs. James Fisher Harris is a strong boy, and the Dogs can't defend like crap on their line. So I'm going to go with him. I mean, I really shouldn't be looking at the Bulldogs for an anytime try scorer. If anyone is going to score, it's going to be on the side of Charlie Staines. I don't know who lines up against him. I think that would be Nick Meaney. Maybe.
Meaney and Shoop, yep.
Yeah. You've got, maybe Meaney. But at that point, you'd almost think you'd be donating the money to Sportsbet. Meaney at 420 if you want to have a flutter. For me, Panthers minus 39.5 and James Fisher Harris anytime try scorer.
Okay, you've gone ambitious. I'm going to go slightly more ambitious. I'm going to back my 49.5. I'm going to go Panthers minus 49.5. And I'm going to go Momirovski anytime try scorer. And I'm going to say Momirovski because coming back into the lineup, he's probably wanting to try and retain his spot. And, with Crichton going to fullback, it's really, really difficult to try and knock anybody out of this Panthers squad because everyone's so consistent. Looking at who he comes up against, you've got Shoop and Meaney. They've got one game together. Shoop is only just coming up to first grade. Meaney, although he plied his trade a little bit at fullback, is still not the most defensively sound man on the edge. So I think that Momirovski just shows it to Staines. Meaney probably bites outward. Shoop not strong enough to stop Momirovski. And he just ends up going over from close range. I think that's how that goes. So I'm going minus 49.5 and Momirovski also for the Panthers. So ambitious. We've both gone ambitious in this one. I like it. Nobody can say that our tips are dull. They can say that they're inaccurate, but they can't say that they're dull. And with that then... Right, we'll go to the Rabbitohs versus the Eels. I think that this game splits us because I'm backing the Rabbitohs and I know that you will not back against your Eels.
Yeah, you're right. I'm so... I have one question. Brad Arthur will never watch this, not in a million years. Why, Brad? Why do you keep picking Wonga Blake? No.
I knew it was that.
No! Why? Put Marasani Corey there. Bugger off Wonga Blake to the reserve grade. No! Cut it. Stop. Piss him off. Here's why we conceded so many tries on that wing. So many. You can't blame Fergo. He has to try and cover up 3-on-1, 4-on-1. You can't blame Gutho. He's trying to bustle his ass down the back just to get there. It didn't help that we came up against bloody Trebojevic. Dude's a gun. But just why? It makes me cry. It makes me so upset. This is the back end of our premiership window. That is never going to happen because he picks Wonga Blake. Jesus.
You want to go outside for 5? Do you want to go out while I give my tips? Because I'm definitely, whoever lines up again, so who you got? Gagai. Okay, Gagai gets over for a try, 100%. But I mean, the Rabbitohs, they're pretty much back to a full-strength squad this week. It's kind of ridiculous to look at their squad. I mean, Latrell Mitchell at 1, Graham comes back in the 4 shirt, Campbell Graham. You got Murray in the 13. I mean, Marshall's still in the 14. Okay, Burgess loses his spot to Jai Arrow. So Jai Arrow was in the 17 last week. and those two have just done a straight swap. So Arrow's now into the starting prop role. Burgess will be used as an impact. And I mean, the Eels, no RCG this week, no Regan Campbell Gillard. Sorry, try and get my tongue back out of my mouth to try and pronounce that one. And instead, Oregon Kafusi comes in the 8 shirt. I mean, that's their only real change, bar the reserves. I think that the Eels, they're about to meet their makers with the Rabbitohs. It's going to be a tight one, definitely, but I'm going to say Rabbitohs 1-12 on this one. With a Gagai try as well, because Wonga Blake turnstile.
Don't start. The old boomer, Danon and I were talking about this earlier. If Wonga Blake plays, Dane Gagai, anytime try scorer, Alex Johnson double. Because Ferguson has to come in. He's got to. And AJ will just rip that side up. If Wonga Blake doesn't play, and we put Niokore then, I still go Alex Johnson anytime because it happens. It's Alex Johnson. He's a freak of a finisher. But if Niokore plays, Niokore anytime try scorer, Alex Johnson anytime try scorer, and you can make an argument for both fullbacks. You can make an argument for Gutho. You can make an argument for Latrell. If Wonga Blake plays, Rabbitohs 13+, Dane Gagai anytime, AJ double. If it's Maratta in the centres, Eels 1-12, AJ anytime, and we'll go a little left field, and we will say Reed Marnie.
Okay, bit of value there. I'm still thinking even if Niokore plays in the centre, that the Rabbitohs win this one. They look a little bit. I don't know why I've just got this overwhelming feeling that the Rabbitohs win this one. I'm not going to back against my gut. So, yeah, Rabbitohs 1-12, maybe tight.
12 last week, Matthew.
Yeah, I mean, the Eels. Yeah, I think they're due another loss here. So, yeah, Rabbitohs there, and we will get on to Game 6 again. I mean, Game 6 of Round 12. It's Roosters versus Raiders, and I'm already aware that the Roosters fans are going to hate me. No, I'm going Roosters in this one. Obviously, all the news out of the Raiders at the minute. If anybody thinks that is not going to have an effect on how they play on the field, you're absolutely off your head. I mean, the Raiders. Yes, you'll notice that they have Williams in the 7 when I put that team list up. But that is not George Williams, that's Sam Williams, because obviously George Williams has been released this morning because he asked for release, but he didn't ask for release. And it's on compassionate grounds, but not because the Raiders have kicked him out of the club. But the Raiders have kicked him out of the club, but they haven't. You see where I'm going with this? Yeah, it's an absolute media circus. Yeah. Yeah, and obviously the players are going to be up in arms about this. If anyone thinks that that's not the case, again, head check. Williams will have had close relationships with a lot of players, especially the players in the 12 and the 13 shirt, Whitehead and Sutton, who are obviously both England internationals, both very close with George Williams, as is Josh Hodgson in the 14 shirt. So there's a lot of unhappy players in that squad right now, and that will have an effect on the pitch. For anybody that thinks that they can put that to the back of their mind and just crack on with the game, there'll be that overwhelming feeling. And for that reason, I'm saying Roosters win this 13+. Pretty comfortably. I'd stretch that margin out to 20, 26 maybe, to 20, 26 points for a winning margin for the Roosters, because the Raiders are going to be in complete disarray. The players, I think probably Ricky Stewart's close to losing his locker room here. And when you lose your locker room, your job closely follows, unfortunately, in the world of coaching. And yeah, it's just not a pretty situation. Too much he said, she said, and too much whispers going on at the minute out of the Raiders for me.
Yep. Can't say much more than that on the George Williams front. Just it is worth noting that Jaleesa Apps did tweet out that about half the current playing roster has liked the tweet or Instagram photo of George Williams' statement, quote unquote. So read into that what you will. We won't expand too much more about that because I'm sure we'll hear about it more in the coming days. In terms of tips, Roosters 25 plus. I'm pretty comfortable in saying I think they just absolutely rip this Raiders team to shreds. The Raiders looked great for the first 15 minutes last week, and Melbourne put 30 unanswered points on them. It's a team with a coach that doesn't know how to use his bench. He doesn't know where to play what players. It's a second-string Roosters side that get back Josh Morris after last week. Suwali does move to the bench. But, I mean, it's just... Yeah, you compare this team, and yes, I know that they've lost Angus Crichton, so you probably see a Nat Butcher come into the 11 there, and probably an Egan Butcher onto the bench. That would be my guess. But even then, I mean, that whole lineup outside maybe of Lamb and Whiten, you lean in favour of the Roosters, 1-7. 8-13, a bit more even. With Crichton out, I'd probably say it's, if not leaning slightly towards the Raiders on a head-to-head basis, but how is Sticky going to use his rotation? He's got Josh Hodgson. He'll probably come on as a 13, a running 13. Ryan James is their best prop, but he's playing 30 minutes. No, don't know why. Yeah, Roosters 25 plus try scorers. Take your pick. Anyone from 1 to 17, except for Saluka Fafita, and even then, he'll probably get over and make me eat my words. Yeah, take your pick. Joey, I'll throw Joey Manu in there. He's due. You could also you can make a clear one for Danny Tupou as well.
Yeah. I mean, for me, yeah, I'm going to go Roosters 13 plus on that one, just as a bit of a safety margin. In terms of an anytime try scorer, I'm going to throw out there Tupanua. I just think that if he gets over on the edges, he's probably due a try. He's solid coming up the middle as well. He's a pretty mobile forward. I think if the Raiders start to drop off a little bit and maybe their head's not as in the game as it should be, Tupanua does go straight up the middle. As you mentioned, no Angus Crichton. His judiciary appeal was not was upheld by the judiciary panel, which means that he will not play this week. Victor Radley, I think he got 5 games this morning as well, so he's going to be out for a short while for the Roosters. So, I mean, they are down to the very depths of their 30 at this point, and even still, despite that loss to the Broncos last week, how often do you see the Roosters go back-to-back losses? So, yeah, that formulates part of my decision as well. So, Tupanua anytime, Roosters 13 plus for me in that one.
And it's worth a shout as well before we move on that Elliot Whitehead is currently in the judiciary fighting his tripping charge. We will try and update you on that one very soon if we can find it. Here we go. As it happens, Whitehead is guilty but only fined $1,500 for tripping. So, I mean, he can play. It just hurts the pocket.
Okay. With that, then we'll go to the Sharks versus the Titans. And I'm having a tougher time calling this game than I thought I would. The Sharks were pretty dire last week. There's no Chad Townsend this week for the Sharks. Johnson comes back into the 7. Worthwhile noting that the Sharks get Ramian and Mulatalo back as well. So Chambers has gone to the other centre. Tracy has gone to the other wing as well. And then their forward pack is pretty much unchanged. I mean, for the Titans, a big return for Fafita. He's back in the 12 shirt now that his suspension's finished. So Firma drops to the bench. I mean, I'm very tempted to back. I'm very, very tempted to back the Sharks. I'm still mulling on this one a little bit. I don't know why. Again, just I've got this overwhelming feeling that the Sharks will win this one. I mean, they scraped by last week and they looked really poor. But I just think that the inclusion of Ramian and Mulatalo back on the edges gives them just that extra dynamic coming up against Don and Kelly. You know, Ramian's a powerhouse centre. If he gets the arm up and manages to bump away, just slots Mulatalo straight into the corner. So I'm leaning towards a Mulatalo anytime try scorer and a Sharks 1-12 here.
Titans 1-12.
Okay, we're split again on this one.
David Fafita's back, and that's the only reason why.
Yep.
The Titans looked like crap last week against the Dogs. The Sharks, I don't know how they beat the Dragons last week, looking like absolute dog crap. But they did. And Townsend's now in the reserve, so it probably helps their structure a little bit, to be completely honest. But Sean Johnson's coming back from injury. Tanner Boyd and Fogarty, I said last week that isn't a combination that's working. Still somewhat believe in that, but I think AJ Brimson just brings that extra dynamic into the side that helps kind of lessen that factor a little bit. Fafita will go up against Nakora. I mean, that's a tough battle. It'll be a good one to watch, but Fafita's got the upper hand there. You look at the rest of the Titans pack. Wallace goes over Tolman, Fodawaker over Woods, Proctor and Graham. Tough one. Probably on the kicking game, say Graham, but Proctor's pretty strong. Toby and Tino. Flip a coin, probably Tino. But you can understand why the Sharks have re-signed Toby Rudolph to the end of next year now, I believe. And you've got a strong second row in Jamin Jolliffe, Sam McIntyre, Beau Firma and Aaron Clark, who has done well in giving Mitch Rayner a break at about the 50-minute mark. Titans 1-12 for me. Tend to agree with your Ramian Mulatalo theory, but I think that the combination of Chambers and Tracy it's not working. Chambers isn't great. I think he comes up against Pat Herbert. Yes, he comes off injury, but Herbert is a good player. Chambers at the back end of his career, not looking overly good. Fafita, anytime try scorer. We'll say Ramian, anytime try scorer as well. I like your theory. Titans 1-12.
Okay, right. So I'm going Sharks 1-12 on that one. I'm officially locking that one in. I think that the Titans will. I think Fafita definitely comes back and has a big game. I guarantee that. I mean, he'll just pick up where he left off. Everybody expects that. And Fafita, for the money that he's on, will obviously be looking to atone for the fact that he's missed 2 weeks, especially with Origin coming up as well. Every one of these players will be wanting to keep the noses clean. So Fafita is going to play a very tough game, but also try and avoid suspension because I'll rule him out for Origin. But I mean, the Titans are they're a little bit hit and miss for me for the strength of their roster. But I mean, I liked Boyd in the 6 last week. I thought he brought a new dynamic to their game. It opened them up a little bit, especially going laterally. But for me, I think just having Johnson back, Johnson and Moylan is a 6-7 combination that I do actually quite like out of the Sharks. It's one of the few halves pairings that I actually do like to see out of the Sharks. So, I mean, I'm going to lock it in and go Sharks 1-12 here. And Mulatalo anytime for me. And with that, then we will get on to the last game of the round. Knights versus Seagulls. Knights, they get back Kalen Ponga. It looks like Bradman Best will play this week after he pulled out last week. You got Mann in the 6, Crossland in the 7. I mean, the Knights are pretty unchanged. As for the Seagulls, very few changes as well. The big change in the Seagulls is Schuster in the 6. Carl Lawton coming into the 11 shirt. Kepi into the 12, and then your bench is Sirinen, Sully, Sadler, and Sipley. All the S's on the bench there for the Seagulls. This one I'm having a tough time calling as well.
Really?
Yeah. I'm genuinely having a bit of a tough time with this one. I really want to back Seagulls again, but I just have this sneaking suspicion with Ponga back for the Knights. Maybe they go a little better than they did last week.
Oh, they definitely do. I'm still going Manly 13 plus, and I don't have to think about it.
Okay.
I don't know what Adam O'Brien's doing with this forward rotation. I really don't. Connor Watson has to play more minutes. Mitch Barnett has to play more minutes. Lockie Fitzgibbon is getting better, but he's not that 80-minute player that he was 2 years ago. That was maybe Origin potential. Suaso Sue's only playing 25 minutes. I don't get it. I really don't get it. Tom Trebojevic is unstoppable. He's unstoppable. He's going to target Inari Tuwala because Tuwala cannot defend strong, quick fullbacks that have just so many different aspects of their game. He can't defend it. They're going to target that side. Morgan Harper's going to get a try. It wouldn't surprise me if Schuster darts through for a try and breaks through the defensive man because man has not been playing well. It's not that hard for me. Manly 1-13, Harper, Schuster. You could probably argue Best over Parker. Best probably gets that one. But, yeah, I'm well and truly going Manly 13 plus here, and it looks like Ian Mitchell agrees.
Yeah, Ian Mitchell's fully behind your line of thinking. The only problem that I have with this game is it almost looks just a little too bait. Like I feel like I've gone with the easier picks, and there's not really been many upset picks. I mean, yes, I went Sharks over Titans last, but I almost feel like it's too bait to pick the Seagulls here. I mean, the Seagulls, yes, they are playing very well, but every time these two meet, it's close. Last two, 26-24, 14-12, both in favour of the Knights. The Knights are on a bit of a poor run of form. They get Ponga back. Yes, Trebojevic is just absolutely killing it. But who's to say that this week isn't the week that Tommy has a poor game? And if Tommy has a poor game, the Seagulls will have a poor game. I have this sneaking suspicion about the Knights. Ian is still profusely disagreeing with me. And your face tells me that you are also profusely disagreeing with me. But I just have this sneaking suspicion that this week might be the week that Tommy Trebojevic has a bad game and that the Knights capitalise on that, and it's going to be a low-scoring one. I think something under 40 points for me in this one, and it's going to be Knights 1-12 for me. I just have that feeling.
I'm with you on that one. I'm not going to throw the money on it. Ian, that's all you, mate. I'm not endorsing this. It's up to you. No. Tom's just going to hit it. He's going to hit it. He's an easy captain's choice for Supercoach. He's an easy anytime try scorer bet. I can't in any good conscience say that the Knights are going to be in this. They might score first, but Manly 13 plus, Harper, Schuster. If you want to throw Bradman Best in, he probably is their best chance of a try. But it's your deathbed, mate, because Manly are going to absolutely smack them.
Yeah. Well, as we always say, gamble responsibly, and Ian's already doubled the stakes, so I'm going to have to politely decline that one because my account does not have 200 in it right now, my friend.
Hang on, we played 200 Aussie.
Oh, 200 Aussie. I know that the exchange is good, but, wire transfer fees and all that. I think I think we will wrap it there then. We can only thank you for joining us. We've given you our best tips, tips to the best of our ability, we should say. But join us it'd be Monday now. Join us on Monday when we'll go through all the action, see how we did, and thank you everyone for getting involved. And we will see you next time. Thanks a lot.
Cheers.